In Peru, authorities declared a state of emergency in Lima due to the effects of Cyclone Yaku. In France, tens of thousands take to the streets for the 7th day of protests against President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform plans. And in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, a UN Security Council arrived in Goma where fighting is raging between the Congolese army and the M23 rebels. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. During an interview for the radio program La Pizarra, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, stated that the current energy crisis in the world has led some countries to consider establishing trade relations with the Caribbean nation.
The war between Russia and Ukraine, that armed conflict, has changed many things. It has accelerated many things in the world, and it is likely that the energy crisis that the world is going through, being Venezuela the main oil reserve in the world and the fourth largest gas reserve in the world, it is possible that they have seen how nice I am and how good is our revolution. It is possible. Everything is possible in this world. And well, these are the geopolitical realities, and let's hope that we will be able to move through the new geopolitical realities for the benefit of our people, which is the most important thing.
The Venezuelan president emphasized that in the last 10 years, the economic, political, and geo-commercial diversification of Latin America and the Caribbean with the world has been strengthened.
Something that has happened in the last 10 years is the economic, commercial, and geopolitical diversification of Latin America and the Caribbean with the world. The deep and close relationship with China, the close relationship with Russia across the continent, with India, and with Europe. We have been breaking the ties of dependence that unite us by means of domination. Domination schemes imposed in our continent by the United States Empire.
Likewise, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, assured that his country has been assessing the evolution, recovery, and reactivation of CELAC and UNASUR.
We are paying close attention to the evolution of the recovery of the community of Latin American and Caribbean states, which is going at a good pace. We are paying close attention to the reactivation of the National Union of South America, the Union of South American Nations, UNASUR. We are paying close attention to the recovery of bilateral meetings, political agreements, geopolitical, economic, and trade agreements with all countries.
The relief Cuban Medical Brigade returned home after aiding the people of Türkiye to recover from the February 6 earthquake's effects. The team, integrated by 32 professionals, worked in several of the most affected areas of Türkiye for almost a month under harsh weather and terrain conditions. Upon their arrival at Jose Marti International Airport in Havana on Saturday, they were received by Cuban Deputy Prime Minister Jorge Luis Perdomo de Lieja, Türkiye's ambassador to Cuba, BFB Esgel Etensel, and other government officials.
The Cuban Medical Brigade in Turkey treated a total of 3,755 patients in its 24 days of work. More than 60 cases of urgent major surgery were operated on. More than 6,500 nursing procedures were performed. But the impression we left touched many millions. The Turkish people opened their arms, their homes, and their families to us.
Turkish ambassador to Cuba, BFB Esgel Etensel, thanked the brigade's work in the Eurasian nation.
We are very grateful for the solidarity shown by Cuba that has helped us in these difficult times. True friends are known in difficult times indeed. This 32-member Cuban Medical Brigade did an exceptional job.
For their part, members of the Cuban Medical Brigade in Turkey shared some of their experiences in this mission.
We arrived and there was snow for several days, with temperatures of 11 and 12 degrees, full of snow. The culture of that town, we adapted a clinic to a life and work at 1,200 meters above sea level, plus the aftershocks were challenges that we had never felt. But That it never prevented me and the two nurses that accompanied me, as well as the other three doctors, the epidemiologist, the psychologist, and the translator, from providing medical, psychological, and nursing care with the quality I mentioned. And the experience was that we took the heart of the town with us.
It got to a point in which we were walking around the community and everybody knew us, everybody stopped us. People in cars, they all greeted us. It was rewarding like that. On the other hand, it was emotionally complex because of all the stories we had to listen to. There were people who had over 400 contacts in their phones and now have only 100 left. Or people who had to leave everything behind because they lost everything.
Peruvian authorities declared a state of emergency in Lima due to the effects of Cyclone Yaku. 58 people have died in the current rainy season. According to Peruvian Minister of Defense, Jorge Chavez, the declaration of the state of emergency begins to take effect on Saturday from the metropolitan area of Lima to the region of Tumbes in north to work on the mitigation of coming rains effects. All this comes after President Dina Boluarte received a weather forecast report for Lima, which has been under severe rainfall due to Cyclone Yaku. According to this report, Yaku is expected to be moving away from the Peruvian coast on Wednesday. However, it could cause rains on Sunday and next Tuesday of up to 5 millimeters in the coastal area of Lima and activate the more than 30 creeks of the department. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at the account at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. Thousands of people participated on Saturday in massive demonstrations in rejection of the increase in the retirement age in France. Clashes between police and demonstrators took place on Saturday in Paris during a new day of massive protests against the pension reform planned by the government. According to local media, uniformed officers used tear gas to disperse demonstrators in the French capital. Hundreds of demonstrations are reported to have taken place in numerous cities of the country. The controversial pension reform was presented on January 10th by Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne. According to the bill, the authorities will start increasing the retirement age by 3 months per year as of September 1st, 2023. Thus, it would reach 64 years in 2030. The reform has unleashed a wave of protests in French society despite social discontent. The French Senate approved on Thursday the key article of the reform project, which should raise the minimum retirement age to 64 years. The leader of the French left, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, expressed that France is living in a moment of zero political tolerance and was astonished by the high level of violence and contempt shown by the executive for not listening to the popular clamor to reverse pension reforms.
We are living a moment of political lockdown by the President of the Republic. This is an unprecedented situation in the social history of this country. It has never happened before. To rough up the National Assembly, then to rough up the Senate, then refusing to talk to the leaders of the unions who, as you can imagine, did not expect such violence in this contempt. So much so that one has the impression that everything is blocked in the country.
Likewise, parliamentarian Mathilde Le Pen expressed that they are in a moment of inflation due to the high social cost of maintaining the strike and criticized the government's poor management of this type of situation.
You clearly have a strategy of deterioration on the part of the government, which hopes that the strikers will quickly give in because the strike is expensive, because life is expensive, and because millions of people are shocking because of the increase in energy prices, because of the increase in food prices, and they have to ask themselves each time how they are going to pay their bill, pay the rent, and continue to have all their children able to eat in the canteen, and many other things. So we are at the moment where the balance of power is intensifying. We are at marks a turning point, obviously, with this strike, which has been renewable since 7 March, a bit earlier for some of the workers. And we see that this strike is holding. It continues, and it's still spreading to other sectors.
In the United Kingdom, citizens demonstrated in support for National Health Service personnel amid a staff shortage crisis in hospitals and increasing waiting times for patients. According to the Royal College of Emergency Medicine, 500 patients died unnecessarily every week due to the collapse of the medical emergency system over the last month. Members of the Medical Association have registered patients waiting up to 12 hours for ambulances, as a result of which many of the latter cannot make it to hospital centers. Given the situation, they demand the government take quick measures to address the situation and demand salary improvements after denouncing a wage decrease of up to 20% since 2010. In the Netherlands, farmers protested in the city of The Hague against the government's plan to reduce nitrate emissions. Over 10,000 farmers gathered in Zuid Park. Dozens of them even left in their tractors from various parts of the country, despite the fact that it is forbidden to use this type of vehicles in protests. Authorities placed army trucks next to some crossroads to block the roads if the tractors tried to access the center of the metropolis. Demonstrations was called by the Farmers Defense Force movement, which, among other grievances, denounces the government's policy on child welfare benefits and the treatment of residents in Groningen province in the northern part of the nation, whose homes were damaged by earthquakes caused by decades of natural gas extraction. On Saturday, thousands of Israelis gathered in Tel Aviv to protest judicial reforms they fear will erode democracy in the country. The uproar over Netanyahu's legal overhaul has plunged Israel into one of its worst domestic crises. Beyond the protest, opposition has surged from across society, with business leaders and legal officials speaking out against what they say will be the ruinous effects of the plan. The RIF has not spared Israel's military, which is seeing unprecedented opposition from within its own ranks. Hundreds of Israeli women's rights activists dressed as characters in the popular television series The Handmaid's Tale joined the rallies. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. We're going to take one final short break and we'll be right back, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. On Saturday, a UN Security Council arrived in Goma in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, where fighting is raging between the Congolese army and M23 rebels. The fighting in the North Kivu province has intensified recently, and the M23 threatens to cut off all road links to Goma, situated on the border with Rwanda. Speaking on arrival, the French ambassador to the UN reaffirmed the support of the international community with the DRC. Several regional initiatives intended to defuse the conflict have so far failed to stop the fighting. The Congolese government accuses Rwanda of backing the M23 rebels, although Kigali has so far denied that. UN experts and several Western countries have also concluded that Rwanda supports the group.
The Security Council has a wide range of tools to bring about peace and security. Sanctions are one of these levers, but they are not only sanctions, there is negotiation. And negotiation is a tool par excellence of diplomacy and the United Nations.
After 2017, 2022 was the second deadliest year in the history of the United Nations system in the Democratic Republic of Congo, with 13 lives of United Nations peacekeepers taken in violent attacks.
UN envoy Abdoulaye Bathily calls on rival administrations in conflict-torn Libya to agree terms for elections by mid-June, pushing for the long-delayed ballot to be held by year-end. The Senegalese diplomat told the UN Security Council last month he had a new initiative to break a deadlock in talks on the legal basis for presidential and parliamentary elections, initially planned for December 2021. But Bathily, head of the UN support mission in Libya since October, has faced pushback over his blunt criticism of the North African country's two houses of parliament for failing to reach an agreement. Moreover, the UN envoy defended his proposal in a news conference in Tripoli on Saturday, stressing it was not a foreign-imposed solution. Libya has lived through more than a decade of intermittent conflict since 2011, when NATO forces decided to invade the country to overthrow President Muammar Gaddafi.
Months, by mid-June, it would be possible for them, after having sat for a few weeks, to come to an agreement on those electoral laws, give them to HNEC, which will be, on the basis of this, put up a clear roadmap, because the roadmap, it is not up to me to design it. And from what we know, it would be possible, if the electoral laws are put in place in June, by the end of the year, to have these elections to take place.
In Afghanistan, a bomb attack left 1 person dead and 8 injured, including 5 journalists. The attack took place in a building in the northern city of Mazar-i-Sharif during the commemoration of the National Day of Journalists. The detonation also injured 3 minors who were singing the national anthem during the ceremony. So far, no terrorist group has claimed responsibility for the attack. However, the police believe Daesh might be behind it. For several decades, Afghan journalists have been the targets of such attacks, some of which Daesh claimed to have committed. The resumption of relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran will have repercussions across the Middle East and beyond, from the war in Yemen to the rise of China's influence in the region, analysts said. The two rival powers announced Friday the restoration of diplomatic relations within 2 months following negotiations in China. Saudi Arabia as Sunni and Iran as Shiite severed relations more than 7 years ago after Iranian protesters attacked Saudi diplomatic missions in the Islamic Republic following the execution in Riyadh of Shiite cleric Nir al-Nir. The two regional powers support different sides in several conflicts in the region, such as in Yemen, where the government has been fighting since 2015 against Iran-backed Houthi rebels. Starting Saturday, negotiations between the government and the Houthis will be held in Geneva, Switzerland, on a possible prisoner swap. And we have come to the end of this news brief, and you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.